Okay, so you started your own business, or you're thinking of starting your own business. Are you ready? Are you able to do every single aspect of the business you're opening? Or are you depending on third party or hiring people to do certain tasks because you don't have the skills to do it? That's your first sign of failure. Never start your business unless you personally can operate it 100%. In fact, never start a business and hire anybody, okay? You don't go into business and get into debt and expenses, okay? You get into business to make money, not just spend and give your money away. You can learn, you can work your butt off, you could work 80 hours a week, you can go nuts to build your business, and that's okay. And in fact, that's good. Only when your book of work is so high that you're losing work because you can't get it all done do you even consider hiring somebody. Now, let's think about the people you're going to hire. And I'm going to use my industry as an example and my experience. I'm an electrical contractor. So 30 years ago, I started getting busy. Why? Because I was doing excellent work. So the phone kept ringing. So I was just hiring people. So what I would do? I would put an ad on Craigslist. Hey, I need an electrician in this area. Ba-da-da-da-da. Guys would call me up. I would ask them a question. First thing I would say is, the inside of a delta Y transformer, what are the terminals labeled? Oh, H1, H2, H3, XO, X1, X2, X3. Fine. You come in and meet me. If you couldn't answer that question, then I would maybe say something like, what size copper wire do you use on a 400 amp service? I would use something like that. They answer the questions. I'd ask them a few more. If they could answer them, I'd say, okay, come on in. They'd come in for an interview. And most of them were laid off electricians. Most of them laid off union electricians, which I had no problem with, but I noticed that the laid off union electrician was my shooting star. And I would use him that way too. I knew that it was short-lived. I knew that a laid off union guy was just waiting for an opportunity to go back in the hall because he's not an entrepreneur. He doesn't want to be in his own business. So a lot of the guys that would answer the ads, because when you hire someone, you need some help, right? You're kind of desperate. When you put that ad on Craigslist or wherever you're putting your ad out, it's like saying, hey, help me, man, I need help. So a lot of the people that would answer would be either guys that were laid off, maybe had a substance abuse problem, maybe there's a reason why. Number one, they're not working for themselves because they can't handle it. They don't want to do it. They just want to put in their 9 to 5. They want to make their $50, $100 an hour and go home. I get that. But there's a caveat with that, okay? You can't expect these guys to lead your company. All right. The other problem is guys that are always on their phone. You got a guy who's maybe starting his own business but doesn't have enough work, takes on a job with you, and now he's using half his time talking to his customers on your dime, right? So I would show up to a job and he would be on his phone and he would see me and he wouldn't want to walk away in the corner because when you're talking to a customer, you don't say, excuse me, Mrs. Smith, I'll call you later. No, you have to communicate with your customer. So even though I would show up and they're working for me, they couldn't just hang up on the people. So you can see those guys, and those are the worst ones. You got to watch out for those guys. The guys that have the agenda that they're leaving, starting on their own, because then your tools, your equipment can go missing. So you want to be careful on them. And the also is the laid off union guys. You got to be careful on them. So I could remember having a project, and I would show up in the morning, and the union guys would get there early. That's one great characteristic about those guys. They just early people, man. They get up early and they leave early, right? Well, everywhere that guy would park on the job site, there would be little bottles of booze. He would have these little nip bottles, couple 1 ounce bottles that he would need in the morning, and that was his thing. So, and I remember going in hot, seeing the bottles, and he's running some conduit or doing something, going in, and I explode. Yo, Joe, are you kidding me? Was that your bottles? Come over here. I could smell it on his breath, Get out of here. You fire someone on the spot, and then you realize, wait a minute, I just fired the guy I need to finish this job. But you have to do that, right? Because you can't have anybody smelling like booze on your payroll. You're a liability. You just can't. That's why you must be able to pick up the pieces and fill in for them. If you got a guy like that you catch on the job, he's drinking, smoking, whatever, how good he is, you have to get rid of him, okay? Offer him help, whatever you do. But you, the owner, must pick up the pieces. You can't go to your customer and say, hey, I just fired a guy because he was drinking on your job site, and now I'm going to hire a new guy, so give me some time. They don't want to hear that. That's when you do it. So I had a big argument with my brother-in-law one time. He wanted to open up a stadium barbershop. I'm like, stadium barbershop? I'm like, you're going to get your barber's license? He's like, oh, no, I'm not going to get my barber's license. I'm going to hire barbers. That's the biggest setup for failure yet. If you're starting your business, you should be able to do every single anything that needs to be done. You should have the tools and be able to do that. Never have to rely on anybody for anything. It's a sure sign of failure. And again, these guys are not entrepreneurs, the one that you're hiring, okay? And you got to be careful also if you don't put enough money in the job, and this is a huge mistake that I made, and I hope you guys stick around to listen to this. And I'm hoping the video is compelling enough to get this message out to you, but I could remember just blowing up at guys in my early career. I overmanaged them. I was so concerned on the bottom dollar and how much I bid. I would think how many guys, how many days would it take to do a certain job? And you all know it. You can run into something, you're busting your butt, but it just doesn't go right. It takes a little bit longer, right? The knockout doesn't work, or this isn't right, or this came in wrong, or you don't have that fitting. And you have to kind of dance around it to make it work, and it just puts you behind. So me as a young owner back then, showing up to a job and not seeing the work that I thought in my mind would be completed, I would just show up. What's going on, guys? What are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on? Are you just like hanging out? What are you? And screaming at them. And a couple times, guys just walked off the job doing that. And that really hurt me because now I'm a small new contractor, that not doing the job right because I didn't bill enough, and I'm screaming at the help that I need to get the jobs that I have going. And they walk off the job because a lot of these laid off guys have other opportunities, okay? They might be working for you, but they want to go work for another guy that says, hey, I'll call you in a few weeks. They get the phone call, hey, Joe, I'm going to have you back on Monday. Here it's the Tuesday of the week before, and Joe's thinking, okay, I'll work for Henelect. I'll work for Garrett for the rest of this week. I won't tell him I'm going to quit. I'll get my full week in, and then I'll start on Monday. So they have an attitude, right? They start damaging things, dropping tools, running the lifts into the walls. This is things that are going to happen, and you have to be able to manage them. You have to be able to be there and make sure that, hey, do you have to let someone go early? If you do, you take up the space, right? So remember, don't overmanage your guys, okay? They're not leaders like you are. So you're watching these videos of me because you want to be super successful and super wealthy in your career. We're entrepreneurs. It's in our DNA to lead and to become wealthy. There's no reason that we can't be. That's just the way we are. So I can't relate to people who don't want to get it. I can't relate to people that way. You can be a fantastic worker and want to work for the union and put in your 30 years and get your pension. That's fantastic. I'm not that way. Me, if I was working there, I would be thinking, why can't I do this? Why do I have to work for this guy? Why don't I be able to be the one to do this work? And I realized as I got older, my skill sets grew. And it's like, dude, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And is it funny that once you start, if you see something that's like so technical, you're so overwhelmed by it. But once you get down to the nitty gritty, you're like, really? That makes sense. I get that. I mean, we're all humans, guys. There's no magic out there. All work can be done by somebody. But some people just make it up so big in their mind that they think they can't handle it. So a lot of the workers, people who aren't leaders or entrepreneurs, have this mindset. They don't want it. They don't think they can do it. So we have to be able to manage those people. So my tip to you is start your business. Don't hire anybody. And once you do hire them, treat them right. Don't overmanage them.